420, everybody. Today we're going to instruct how to program something awesome for your file upload forms. Not many websites have visual features like the one you will learn today, so it'll help you stand out from the crowd. And what we're going to do is use JavaScript to program circular load bars or circular loaders for progressive events in JavaScript, such as uploading files with Ajax. And we'll be using the Canvas element to render it. First, let's take a look at the finished product. So you see, starts at 0%, runs all the way around to 100%. And then when it's done, you can put some script in place to do whatever you want. And towards the end of the video, I'll explain to you how you can tie this to your Ajax file upload mechanisms. That way you can render this to the screen when people are uploading files. And you'll have complete control over the visual aspects. Okay, the first thing we're going to do is start off with a blank document that only has a canvas element in it so far. And just so we can see exactly where that canvas lives, I'm going to put a style attribute. I'm going to give it a border, 1 pixel, dashed, and make it light gray. Now I'm going to recommend that you put this styling in your CSS and not directly in the canvas element. And you can also set the width and the height through CSS. So by me putting the style attribute in the canvas element itself, I'm not recommending that's the best approach. I'm just doing that to keep the lesson light and fast. But what you would do is put this in your CSS section of the document. Okay, let's take a look at what that renders, and there's a little canvas. Now you can see my script element is not up in the head of the document. It's right under the canvas. Now what you would want to do ideally is have the script in the head of the document, and I'm going to show you when we take a look at the Ajax file upload tutorial, I'm going to show you that the script is in the head of the document. And I'm just putting it under so I don't have to put a window on load event. But if you want to put all this script in the head of the document, all you have to do is add EventListener for the load event of the window. And keep in mind that this is just a simulation and you're going to have to adapt it to your file upload mechanisms. But I'll explain that. Now the first thing we're going to do in the script element is establish all of our variables. That way we don't have to have this var being called inside of our animate function, because that animate function is going to run over and over again. So if you can, establish all of your variables outside of that function. Now this variable ctx represents the canvas getContext2D. var al, that's short for amount loaded, and we start that with a default of 0, and it will travel all the way to 100%. Start, this represents the start point of the circle within the canvas, and we want it to start at high noon or perfect north. So 4.72 is perfect north. Or it might not be precise north, but it was north enough for me. Straight up in the 12 o'clock position. This just makes the loader start at the 12 o'clock position. Now the next two variables are the canvas width and the canvas height. Now this var diff is for figuring out the difference of the percentage to make the amount loaded variable relative to 6.28. or math.pi times 2. And you'll see how we get that value in place. Now we're going to have one more variable to simulate the progress event. So I just called it var sim, and that's equal to set interval, which is a way to repeat a process over and over again until you clear that interval. And the function that we're going to fire off every 50 milliseconds is ProgressSim. So let's copy that and let's type in function ProgressSim, open close parentheses, opening curly brace, and closing curly brace. Now the first thing we're going to do in that function is figure out the diff, the difference, or the relative value of amount loaded to math.pi times 2, or 6.28, because math.pi in JavaScript represents 3.14. So we just times it by 2 to make 6.28, which is a full circle. We take the amount loaded, we divide it by 100, and then we multiply that by math.pi, which is 3.14, times 2, making 6.28. Then we multiply 6.28 times 10. Then we just use 2 fixed to make sure it has 2 decimal places. And I don't even think 2 fixed is necessary here, but I put it in place just to make sure that my number has 2 decimal places, because you might want to use fractions. On the very next line, we're going to clear rect. Now we're going to clear the rectangle. Basically, you're just erasing the canvas when you use clear rect. And we're going to start x0, y0. I'm going to go the whole canvas width and the whole canvas height. That pretty much just erases the whole canvas every time this ProgressSim function runs. And if you don't do that, you'll see really weird visual effects that you don't want. Then we're going to set the line width. Now this line width is going to be for the progress bar itself, or the circular, the donut shape. That's how thick it's going to be. Then we're going to set the fill style. This is going to be the color of your text. Remember that little text in the middle of the circular loader? That's the color you can set for it. And here you set the color for the actual circular loader itself. And I just made them the same color so that it looks alright. I used a light blue. Then we're going to set text align to center. And then we're going to actually draw our text. Now the way you make it dynamic is you just put the AL variable here, the amount loaded, plus %sign. And that's the text that's drawn to the canvas. Then the next parameter for fill text is where you want it to live, the X and Y positions, and then the max width. So the X position of where that text is going to be drawn is the canvas width times 0.5. Basically that just means the canvas width divided by 2. Then the canvas height divided by 2. And then I added 2 pixels just to bring it down a little bit. And then we put the canvas width variable here because that's the max width of the text. We don't want the text to be any wider than the canvas itself. So that there will get your text being drawn and changing as the progress simulation rolls along. Now for the very next line, we're going to begin path. This is going to be for the circular loader to draw that. And I'm going to show you guys the Canvas Bootcamp training series that I put out. I put out like 20 videos all about how to program on the canvas, and it shows all of these methods and properties in depth. So really, if you really want to wrap your head around everything, I would recommend that you take the Canvas Bootcamp training series. Alright, so the next line, we're creating an arc which draws a circle. And we want an animated circle. So that's why we're using the diff variable and the start variable. Now I'm going to show you guys in depth about the arc, so that way you guys can research all of these parameters, because you see numbers here, right? Now you want to know what those numbers represent? Canvas Bootcamp, baby. That's where you learn it. I'm not going to regurgitate all of my material. And the important parts here are the start value of the angle of the arc, and then its ending angle for the arc, which is always going to be changing in our case until it completes a full circle. In the next line, we're just going to set the stroke method. That way it actually draws the arc, or it draws the stroke of the arc. Then we're going to say amount loaded plus plus. So basically, as this function runs, every 50 milliseconds, this function runs. So every 50 milliseconds, this amount loaded variable is going to be incremented by 1. It starts out at 0, and then it keeps getting incremented by 1 until it reaches 100. So to make sure that we have a mechanism in place to evaluate if it reaches 100, we're going to put a little if condition. We say if the amount loaded is greater than or equal to 100, then we're going to clear timeout on this set interval. Basically, you're stopping the animation. And then I put a little note that says add scripting here that will run when progress completes. And this is where you put your code when the progress is complete. Anything that you want to do, give the user a message, say, yay, it's all complete. Because by that time, the file will be uploaded to the server. And you would be doing it through Ajax, so there's not going to be any refresh of the page needed or anything. And the file will still get uploaded. Now let's check and see if we have a working simulator. See there? Now that you see it fills that little canvas exactly the way you want, and you can make it any size. So what I'm going to do is just remove the border now. Or actually, I'll leave the border in place, but If you guys want that little dashed border to go away, just remove this property. But I'll leave that in place. That way everybody can see exactly the dimensions of their canvas. Alright, so now we have a working simulator. Now all you have to do is realize or learn how to upload files with Ajax, and I'm going to show you that tutorial right now. And I'm also going to show you other tutorials that are very related to this one that will help you extend this into using it for file upload mechanisms and all kind of progressive type events for JavaScript. Okay, you just want to head over to developphp.com and you click on JavaScript video tutorials. And here we have file upload progress bar meter tutorial, Ajax and PHP. You click that and then you watch the video very closely, and all you have to do is take the script and put it in place. Now you have a progress handler function here. That is where you're going to put your canvas animation. All of that functionality that's in that progress simulator function that we wrote, all of this functionality would go in your progress handler. And you see how we wrote the var amount loaded? That would represent your, let's see, percent. So percent in this tutorial is equivalent to the amount loaded in the tutorial that we're presenting today. So that's all you would have to do is use percent in place of amount loaded and put all that canvas code in, and you'll be good to go. You'll be uploading files with a true circular progress bar. In this one, we're using an actual progress element, the HTML5 progress element, which just makes a rectangular linear bar, which everybody uses. If you use a circular load bar, you'll really stand out from the crowd. And there's even the file upload parser.php. The whole Ajax file upload application is sitting right here for you to take and adapt to your circular loader. Now, if we go back to the JavaScript video tutorials, keep scrolling down and you're going to see Canvas programming. Now, this is the Canvas Bootcamp series, and you can learn really in depth all about these properties and methods that we're using for the Canvas programming with JavaScript. This lesson series will take you really in depth. So if any of you are thinking to yourself, what does this number represent? And what does this parameter represent? And what does this parameter represent? You can learn all of that really in depth at the Canvas Bootcamp training series. So this way nobody can say that they fail to understand what this 35 represents, what this 30 represents, because I really discuss all the parameters in depth in that series. Alright, so I'm just going to leave you to your own devices and all the programming that you would need to adapt the circular loader into your Ajax file upload mechanisms. And another thing to note, I noticed that a lot of people, they don't realize that their server has like a 2 megabyte limit on file uploads. So if you want to let people upload a file that's over 2 megabytes or over 10 megabytes or whatever your server limit is, you have to go into your php.ini file and change the max upload size for uploads and the max execution time. Basically, you want to find all of the little directives that deal with file upload and increase their default values. Because if you have, if in your php.ini file, it has a 2 megabyte maximum for the upload, that means any file that's 3 megabytes, like an MP3 or a really huge photo, if it's over 2 megabytes, the upload will fail on your server. You have to increase those limits. Now, there are lots of things you can do. You could set a donut in there that would be like the container for the load bar. There could be like maybe a gray donut that's stationary that the load bar fills in. All you have to do is learn the basics of Canvas programming, which the Canvas Bootcamp will do for you. You can change the colors, you can change the size, you can make your canvas any size you want. You can size this text. So virtually every visual element is open for adjustment. Now I might have to explain this parameter right here. You know what this value represents? That represents 4.72, which is 12 o'clock, straight up north. So for the ending angle of the arc, we just say diff divided by 10 plus 4.72. That way your difference for the angle will always be relative to that 4.72, the perfect 12, the 12 o'clock position. And it'll grow from that all the way around back to the other side to make a complete circle. Alright, so I hope that helps some of you guys get started with creating your own cool circular loaders. And with all the other tutorials that I've released in the past, you have all the information you need to be able to manipulate it any way you want and implement it into any projects that you have. So I'll leave you guys to your own devices. I'll talk to you next time. Bye bye.